Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Free Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 3 UFL predictions. So last week, I had a record of 3-1, and that brings my record on the season to 5-3. Kicking things off this week with the game we have on Friday, and that is the Renegades at the Stallions. And we'll have a live watch party for this game starting about 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, so I hope to see you guys there. The Renegades, they've gone off to a great start this year as they're 2-0, although they're coming off a less than impressive win over the Roughnecks. Then the Stallions, they're 1-1 after a bounce-back win over the Panthers. And the Stallions' offense was a lot better last week, although starting quarterback Alex Magoo left the game with a shoulder injury, and he's now been placed on IR. So he'll miss at least 5 games. Now, backup quarterback Matt Corral will be starting for the Stallions, and he was pretty good last week with just under 200 yards and a touchdown. And Corral's a player I like a lot, and I definitely think he's good enough to be a high-quality starter here in the UFL. And even though the Stallions don't have their starting quarterback, I don't think this offense will take a step back. But the Stallions' offense has been okay so far this year, averaging 16 points per game in their first 2 games, and they faced a Renegades defense that's been great. The Renegades are allowing 9 points per game and just 232 yards per game, both those stats top 3 in the UFL. Then on the other side, the Renegades' offense is scoring 22 points per game, although last week they were held to just 11 against a bad Roughnecks team. But the Renegades have a very balanced offense, averaging 141 rushing yards per game and 181 passing yards per game. Both those stats rank second in the league. But the Renegades, they face a Stallions defense that has been great. They allowed just 12 points last week, 18 points the week before. And this is a game that I can definitely see going either way. I can see the Renegades continuing their hot start and improving to 3-0, but I can also see the Stallions getting the win in their home opener and building on momentum they started the game last week. But this is a tough game to predict. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game, as most games have been in the UFL so far this season. But both these teams are also great defensively. But I'm going to take the Stallions to get the win. I like the way they played last week. I think that'll carry over into this week. They're at home as well, and I've got the Stallions handing the Renegades their first loss of the season, and the Stallions win by a score of 18-13. Moving to the game on Saturday, and that is the Roughnecks at the Showboats. So this is a match between two winless teams, as the Roughnecks, they've been blown out by the Battlehawks and lost a close one to the Renegades, and the Showboats, they've lost to the Panthers and the Defenders. The Roughnecks haven't been good so far, especially offensively, as they're averaging just 7.5 points per game. They're going to be sticking with Anthony Brown as their starting quarterback, and I don't hate the move because I definitely think he showed improvement from week 1 to week 2. The Roughnecks also traded for all UFL receiver Marcus Sims from the Panthers earlier this week, and that's interesting because the problem for the Roughnecks hasn't been receivers, their problem's been getting the ball to their receivers. But maybe Marcus Sims can help because sure we can't make this offense worse. But the Roughnecks offense matches up against a great Showboats defense, and even though they don't have elite numbers, I still think this is a really good defense. As the Showboats are allowing 21.5 points per game, which ranks 6th in the UFL, and they have a great red zone defense, having forced opponents to settle for 8 field goals, which is most in the UFL. Then on the other side, the Showboats offense also hasn't been the best, as they're scoring just 12 points per game, although they showed some potential last week with head coach Ken Wisenhunt back on the sideline. And the Showboats actually have the number 1 passing offense in the UFL, averaging 181 passing yards per game. And receiver Jonathan Adams leads the league with 221 receiving yards, and I think he can have another big game against a Roughnecks defense that is the worst defense against the pass. Now, I do think this is a decent Roughnecks defense overall, they just struggle to stop the pass. But I do have the Showboats getting the win here. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. Both these teams good defensively, not great offensively. But I do have the Showboats getting the win. I think they're the better offense and defense, plus they're at home, and I've got the Showboats by a score of 16-10. Moving to the games we have on Sunday, starting off with the Brahmas at the Panthers. So the Brahmas, they've gone off to a rough start this season, as they're 0-2, and they have a league worst minus 41 point differential. The Brahmas offense hasn't been good, averaging just 9 points per game, and offensive coordinator AJ Smith stepped down earlier this week. And that's interesting because even though the offense hasn't been good, I don't think AJ Smith has been the problem, and I think he's one of the better offensive coordinators in the UFL. But maybe a new offensive coordinator can spark the Brahmas offense. But the Brahmas offense faces the Panthers defense that is good, allowing 16.5 points per game, although they will be without star edge rusher Breland Speaks, who's been placed on IR with a chest injury. Then on the flip side, the Panthers offense has been okay, as they're scoring 19 points a game, and they need to figure out the quarterback position. I would like to see them just play Bryce Perkins and not occasionally give Danny Etling a drive, although Mike Nolan seems to be against that for whatever reason. But the Panthers offense, they play a Brahmas defense that has really struggled, allowing nearly 30 points per game. But I'm going to take the Panthers to get the win. The Brahmas, they've looked awful so far on both sides of the ball. Panthers, they're also home. I do think this game will be a little bit closer than the Brahmas' first two games, but I still have the Panthers with the win by a score of 23-12. And our final game, we've got the Defenders at the Battlehawks. And this is going to be a great game. It's a rivalry game between two teams who have gotten off to a great start this season. As the Battlehawks are 2-0 with wins over the Roughnecks and Brahmas, and the Defenders are 2-0 with wins over the Showboats and Stallions. The Defenders' offense has been solid so far, scoring 17.5 points per game, although they do need to do a better job of finishing their drives, as they have settled for far too many field goals. But the Defenders match up against a Battlehawks defense that has been great, as they're the number one defense, allowing just 7.5 points per game, and they also have the top pass defense and run defense, and are second in the league with 7 sacks. And then offensively for the Battlehawks, they're also great, as they're averaging a league high 28.5 points per game, and they've dominated on the ground with 218 rushing yards per game. And quarterback Manny Wilkins has also played very well in his first two games. But the Battlehawks offense faces a good Defenders defense, as the Defenders are third in the UFL, allowing 11.5 points per game, although they're not the best against the run, allowing 112 rushing yards per game and 4.9 yards per attempt. Both those stats are in the bottom half of the league. But I think this is going to be a great game. This is a game that I can definitely see going either way. But I'm going to take the Battlehawks to get the win. I think they've been the most complete team in the UFL through 2 weeks. They're at home. They have arguably the best home field advantage in the UFL. And I've got the Battlehawks improving to 3-0 and knocking off the Defenders, winning by a score of 23-18. But those are my Week 3 UFL predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible. Be sure to check out the community tab of my channel, where you guys can vote on who you think will win this week's games. But that's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I do my best to post as often as possible. I will see you in the next video.